Shibeso attenzione.
My money I don't have, so it is, so it is.
So it is.
Are we frozen?
Elena, hang on, go back in. You need to unmute me.
Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
Hello, can everybody hear me? Awesome. Yeah, everybody, Happy New Year. 2024, we are here and we are ready to walk into this great unknown and take it all in. So here we go. We would love to take this moment to just acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers and ancestors of these lands, Oga, Poge, Owinge, also known as Santa Fe. Thank you all for having us. And we'd like to also take this time to just thank everybody for taking the time to be here with us this evening, because, you know, there's one thing that we can't buy, we can't own, and we can't invest, and we can't store, and that's time. So thank you for your time this evening. And in the future, when you watch these archives, thank you for your time also. So Dr. Sheila Rocha is agreed to spend the evening with us for the Indigenous Ways Wisdom Circle. And I would like to just let you all know that Dr. Sheila Rocha is an extraordinary human being, because she is the founding chair of the first BFA in Performing Arts at the Institute of American Indian Arts, based in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And this is the first in tribal college history, and I'm assuming that it's just going to blow up and expand, because Native theater is something else. So Sheila brings with her years of experience and believing in people, believing in human beings, believing in five-fingered ones, and believing in all intergenerations and cultures to be able to work together and mix and create theater. So we'll see what theater means to Sheila tonight and many other things. So let's take a moment to just thank you, Sheila, for being with us this evening. And can you start off your evening by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. First of all, let me give thanks to the Creator, Tonkashila Wakantanka, Wopila, Ilamiya. Thank you for allowing us to be here this evening. All things to the divine. I have to say thank you, first of all, to my beautiful friends, Tosh and Elena, the ASL interpreters, and all the beautiful people that are here tonight, because this is a sampling of what Indigenous Ways is all about. And it's pulling together and making space for people who may not normally have space or have a place in which they can talk about the things that are so imperative in this world today, the good, the bad, and everything in between. So first of all, thank you. And thank you to the people whose homelands, right now I'm on Omaha and Oto land. So I'll be back to Pueblo land in the next couple of days. And what was your question that you asked me before I went off on a mini tangent? Who I be? Uh-oh, you're on mute.
I know. Okay, here we go. So what I really wanted to know, Sheila, is, first of all, what got you involved in performance? And also, can you tell us about the pros and cons and the challenges that Indigenous people face when there has never really been like an established Native theater per se, BFA, MFA, PhD perhaps. Yeah, tell us about that. What's beautiful and what's challenging?
It was a beautiful opportunity to come into this whole realm of performance. And at that time, we called it theater. But I was born in 55. And so when I was going to North High, which was a very supposedly racially tense place, but that was the, stigma. And that was the media that called that out. And that was North High here in Omaha, Nebraska. And we were asking for ethnic studies. I didn't know that I wasn't Black. I didn't know that I wasn't anything but everything. I didn't know that I wasn't Mexican. I didn't know exactly. I didn't know what I was. I thought I was all things. And that felt good because when kids came together, particularly kids of color, we were all intermixed and interactive. And my family is very mixed, from Indigenous Pure'pecha people to African American to Chicano, and a little bit of everything else down the road. And so when I was at North High, we had this big demonstration where most everybody walked out. There was a lot of racial tension. And me and my cousins, we could kind of just slip through and go wherever we wanted to, right? And I was walking down the hall and there was one girl and I saw her and it was like, oh, hi. And then I realized as I came around the corner, she was hitting another girl. She was an Anglo girl. She was hitting a girlfriend of mine that was African American. And there was this big fight and there were fights all over it. And it's like, wow, this is interesting. All because we asked for ethnic studies and they wouldn't give it to us. So that all passed. So after we sat through the Black Panthers presentations and we came back to school a few days later, and suddenly they said, you know what? My theater class, we're going to do a show called Young, Gifted, and Black. And we're going to open it up. Who wants to audition? So immediately that I could relate to, right? And so I jumped on and I thought, wow, there's really no place for me in that because I was brown and the dichotomy was black and white pretty much. And of course, the African American kids said, girl, you mix, you just come on over here, you with us. And then the Anglo kids, they were just like, we just want to have fun, make music and perform. And so what we did is we created the first African American theater performance in Omaha public school history, which was followed by the first African American literature class in Omaha public school history. And through the ability to learn poetry and to begin to do performance poetry and Lorraine Hansberry's production of To Be Young, Gifted, and Black, all of a sudden I was embraced in this ability to find a place where there was no question about who I was, how I was, blood quantums, lineages. I was just there and I played an Irish teacher. I played a Black girl in the school ground, and then I just played me. And so that profundity, the profundity of that moment opened my eyes to the possibilities. And then I started to think about all of the other kids who were in the school who couldn't do these different things, or they didn't feel there was an opportunity for them. Because I would push. And if nobody invited me, I'd just go and say, hey, I'm here and I want to do this. So as I got older, then finally, after I had a couple of children, I got a call from a local theater and they said, hey, we're going to start a multicultural theater initiative. Would you like to come in and represent Mesoamerican culture? And it was like, okay, don't forget the terms were a lot different back then, right? This was So we created 3 theater ensembles. After those folks left and I continued on in theater, I established 4 Directions, which was a Native American theater ensemble, Young, Gifted, and Black, after that first production that empowered me with voice. And the other one was Teatro Mestizo, which at the time, once again, the language has changed. But what it did is it opened up these different venues. And we began to tell our stories because you see, that's all the theater is. It's the act of human beings watching human beings in the act of being human, being witnesses to each other's lives, being able to testify to who you are, who you come from, your ancestors, your present moment, and who that might and what that might look like in the future. It's storying. And I was raised with stories. My father, he didn't beat us. He hit me 3 times. I ducked and dived each time. I'm not going to stand there and get hit, right? Dad said, "Oh, Lord, this child, she's wearing me out. Mija, sit down." So I'd sit down, and then he'd tell us our history, family histories that lasted for hours. And so that made me understand the power of story. And then my dad always had juke joints, after hour places, right? So he introduced me to the blues and jazz. That's all I heard from my dad. And Cuban music, ironically, because his best friend was Cuban, African Cuban. Once again, at that time, I didn't know that I wasn't. I thought I was all things, all peoples. Interesting. And then when that bubble gets popped, it's a little bit upsetting because it's like, whoa. Then all of a sudden you realize that Western culture taxonomize us and they put us into boxes just like we have here on the screen. And we're supposed to place ourselves within these boxes. And I know, Tosh, you and I have had conversations about that. And then there are certain expectations that are imposed upon us to produce within the box that they presume we belong. And when we say, wait, I don't think I like this. Oh, wait, I don't want to be in a box. There's much more to the world than that. My mother, on the other hand, worked in the nightclubs. So when I was a little girl, I got to have dinner with like Bill Haley and the Comets. I got to meet the jazz pianist Teddy Wilson. Ed Ames used to score music for me so I could play my little songs on the piano. And so all of these factors came into play. So I always thought to myself, I want to go to IEIA. And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, but I got kids. Well, maybe I can go now. No, I need to do it fast and quick. And I'll do it from here because the kids are still at home. So I went ahead after I had my brain tumor. They removed that. And I decided it's do or die now, girl. It's time to get it done. Whatever it is I'm going to do, go for the gusto.
Wow.
And so within 10 years, I got my bachelor's degree, my master's in English, my MFA in creative writing. And then ultimately, within 4 years after that, I completed my PhD. And what I realized was that for the community and the Indigenous community at that time, I was very much involved in ceremony, that I was able to offer opportunities that we had never had as Indigenous people specifically. Indigenous, what did that mean? It meant the tribes from here. It meant people who were Africans born in America. And it meant Indigenous people from Mexico. Because as my friends of the Omaha Nation used to tell me, Sheila, your peoples come from the biggest reservation in all of Turtle Island, Mexico. And we used to laugh about that. And out of that came these beautiful productions in which we could embrace up to 17 different tribes at times that participated and work with the artistry and the poetry of people like Laura Tohe at that time. And I'll chuckle as a preface, Allison Hedgecock and Lois Beardsley, Ojibwe. And they all contributed to this production, one particular production, Sacred Sites, in which we celebrated the 38, the Long Walk. We celebrated everything that was significant to the peoples that were in that production. And what I realized at that time is that theater is not just people watching people being people. It is the implementation of healing through ceremony. and all story is ceremony. Hence, all story is ceremony, and all ceremony is healing. Now you have the capacity to do other things with it. But if you choose to do it for the purpose of healing, then you magnify the history and the presence and the endurance of Indigenous peoples. You reclaim voice, and you give that voice to them, and you don't do anything in that performance or playing space without the approval of the elders, without all of the voices of the people that comprise that story, whatever that looks like.
Wow, that is, I don't even want to add an adjective to that. And you know what? I'm not gonna. All I'm gonna say is walking with Hejon, the balance, the harmony, theater, all of that. Because there's all these different ways of doing story, and then climax, and then, oh no, what are we gonna do now? Come down, and protagonist, antagonist, and all of that. So I'm going to ask you kind of an offshoot question. So with Native theater, knowing that ceremonial way of being and sharing story with sacredness, and what all that entails with indigeneity, and traditional theater, which has its own history and formula, and film. And now that phones have come onto the scene, I noticed that a lot of Indigenous people, beautiful deaf people, people just get on and just do this thing, and everybody's so comfortable with the camera on them now that it's just like, it's not even like, oh my God, the film's rolling, and all the, I'm suddenly scared, and my little hurt child is now back in the front seat ruling my show. Do you notice that there's an influx of Native into like more film or more live theater now? Or how is that working? Do you think that this little gadget has done anything to allow some of those curtains to be lifted for a lot of people, particularly traditional people that like, don't turn that camera on me, and definitely don't put video on it, and don't film me. But there's more. Do you feel like there's a more openness to it? Like there's more like, you know what, we're here, and to some extent we are mainstream, or to a major extent we're mainstream. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and you touch on a lot of things that are very significant, and all of them are relevant. I see a lot of students coming into a performing arts department looking for Western theater and wanting to learn those modalities without understanding concepts like Hosho, or for the Autumn people, Himdog. They want to come in and simply tell their stories, Indigenous stories, through a Western television screen, so to speak, right?
Thank you.
I'm not
Thank
talking
you.
about on television, literally. They want to do the great Native American Broadway show. Okay, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. You can do that. But I think what happens is that because we have become so inundated with those conceptualizations of performance being theater, and theater being Greco-Roman or Western, that we forget that we have been spawned from the act of storying. So if you go into any of our languages, there's no word for theater, but there is word for ceremony, ritual, story. And these processes are really what we need to reclaim and bring back. Let me give you an example. So when I wasn't sure, because I was thinking I was in the same construct, oh, we're going to do Native theater and we're going to find a good script and everybody's going to learn their lines and we're going to be really good Indian actors. And so I did, of course, my first professional theater production was under the direction of William Yellow Robe, who is also the playwright. And I had so much fun. And I was like one of two Indigenous people who, at the end of it, lasted through the production. So it didn't feel like an Indigenous production per se, right? But he integrated puppetry and masks, and all of these wonderful things. Working with William was inspiring. And he worked within that construct of Western theater with all of these different Indigenous themes. And then I thought, there's something else that I've got to do, and I'm not sure how to do it. Well, Crow Dog Leonard was in town, and I wanted to try something different. I wanted to do a presentation performance in which people could tell their stories, where they could be witnesses to their survivance, not just surviving on the surface, but having survived and now augmenting their experience as human beings. And so I thought, well, I want to call it Wiping of the Tears. But can I do that? Because it's people that were trying to tell their stories who wanted and needed to tell their story in order to complete their healing. They have been carrying their spirits, their ghosts, their guilt, their shame, and they wanted to release it. So Leonard was there, and I asked to speak with him, and I told him what I wanted to do. And Leonard Crow Dog sit there and he goes, oh, 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 mm, mm. So I get done talking. I think he's going to say, girl, you can't do that, right? That's not appropriate. I was
Right.
good at that, right? And instead he looks at me and goes, huh? And he jumps up and he says, now you want the lights over here. And then you want a veil over here. And then what you want to do is you want to put the person who's going to speak behind the veil, because those things are sacred. You get a cherry branch, you get water, you put sage in the water, you sprinkle them with that water, and then they come out from behind the veil and they can tell their story and wipe their tears.
I love it.
It was
I love
wild. He staged the whole thing
it.
for me. And so I did it as Leonard said to do it. And
Gave you
so
permission to go out and do something in a way that you weren't sure how to navigate.
exactly. And I was
Right.
not going to presume to make it up, because that's arrogance. And that's what challenges our humility. And when we presume that we can go out and do whatever kind of a show or public performance that we want without consulting with the elders and praying about it, doing it the right way, right? We make mistakes. And we've all seen people do that and get scolded after the fact. And that's all right, because that's how we learn, regardless of whether we're 23, 43, or 83. And so after that, it was like, okay, I'm starting to get this. So then I worked with Jerome Keel Small a little bit, an elder from up north, ceremonial man. And then David Swallow, because I didn't think David would want to talk about that kind of stuff. And so now Medicine Man, Wicheshawakan, David Swallow from up in Pine Ridge around Porcupine. I talked to David about it. He's like, huh, that sounds good, that sounds interesting. Those stories got to be told. And then we sit there for 1 or 2 hours and listen to the stories. And that's our teaching of how to do these things the right way.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. We just came from overseas, and we were blessed to go to a play in Brisbane called Ruthie, Are You There? And this play was a story written by Ruth, who was 94 years old and was a part of the stolen generation and went into a dormitory stolen generation setting in Sherbert in Queensland, I think. And she she wrote her book, and then Leah Bursell, who's a famous actress now, and she's First Nations Aboriginal from Australia as well, promised 25 years ago that she read that story and said, I'm gonna, I'm gonna, I'm gonna turn this into a live play. So somebody got her attention recently and said, hey, I think it might have been Ruth, what about this thing you were going to do? So, by now Leah's like big time. She's on several Netflix shows, like significant, if not star of the show actress. She's amazing. Keep her eye out for her. She said, I'll do it. So she got the Indigenous First Nations choreographer. She got the whole crew, all women, and got this thing started. So we actually went to the last showing in Brisbane, and it was a huge theater, and it was sold out. And we went with Auntie Jo, Joanne Wilmot, who's been on this show before. She lives in Adelaide and in Northern Territory. So she got us tickets. So we met her, and we sat like in the second row, and there was these aunties, these from the dormitories from the 1930s and 40s and 50s and 60s, kind of in the front. And then the rest of the audience was all these non-Indig, probably mostly Australian citizens that came in on the boat. Their ancestors came in on the boats. Mm. It was amazing. It was amazing to see that kind of production happen. So incredibly professional, jumping in time zones, and two First Nations actresses changing, going in and out of character and time, from baby to teenager to adult to elder to matron to officer and it was just so amazing to see. That was so incredibly empowering. Would love to get that show over to IAIA for the Indigenous people, or even to the Lensic, for people to see the juxtapositions in what happens with education, religion, indoctrination, and what happens to the people. There's so much in common for us, except here we don't call our boarding school children era stolen generation. But you know what? Many of our elders were stolen. They were taken off their lands. And so what are your thoughts for the future of Indigenous students in Native theater? Where do you think it's going to go now, since these Zooms here, and people are just so used to being on the camera. People are doing selfies all the time, and people are knowing, where to position their faces and their bodies, and exactly where to put. I mean, people are they're becoming their own directors. They're their own self-navigators through this thing called the lens. Where do you think this is going? I mean, look at what happened. Was it the Emmys and all this stuff? It's just Natives are going to be getting Oscars. I mean, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen? And what's going to happen with the direction of Native theater, which is very different than filmmaking? Like, I'm going to go be a movie star, as opposed to, well, I'm going to try to make it to Broadway,
I think that we're going to see, I think in general, we're seeing less live theater. And one of the reasons is because, for example, what IAIA was doing back when you started the first time, right? There was so much live theater, and that was the draw, right? Because there wasn't really VCRs yet. There wasn't the DVDs, all of that. So live theater meant that contact with human beings that is now being kind of substituted with the camera, with the phone. And I don't think that's good or bad. My worry is, though, is that I think people are going to pull more away from live theater. I think we're going to see more film, but I think it's going to happen in a variety of ways. Just like we're seeing on, for example, TikTok, people creating their stories, telling their stories. And in that sense, we've seen some of the most beautiful testimonies on public media, on TikTok, on YouTube. And it just grabs my heart, because it's like, now I know more than I did before. And I'm learning it from the Blackfeet, or I'm learning it from the Crow, or I'm learning it from the Passamaquoddy, people that I don't have contact with. And I think we're going to see a lot of beautiful things come out of that. but I think they're going to be more in terms of the restoration of story. However, there's nothing as impactful and as transformative as the medicine of the life story. Because if you are talking to me, the way that you talk to me is going to be directed for me. And the energy that you put, that vibrational quality that you put into each and every single word that you share at me will be to heal me, to build me, or to destroy me. And what I'm saying is the vastness of the power of the spoken word begins with the intent. And that electrical energy flow is what transforms. So when you talk about prayer, why do you pray? Because of the energy within the intent of the people who are saying the prayer is creating this orb of healing light that transforms. That cannot happen in the same way that we do with film or stagnant material. And film, like books, is stagnant. We can't stop and say, wait, the story has to be different, or I think we should think about this, or you know what, everybody? I think it's time for us to stand and sing an honor song. We can't do that in film. We can't do that on the phones because it is, once again, to a degree, didactic, just like Greek theater was. So Greek theater was the beginning of that didactic performance. This is what the truth is, and here it is before you. Love it, eat it up, and believe it. So we have to be cautious about what we put on these static, stationary formats of performance theater story. I think there are beautiful things that come out of it, though. And we see things like Gary Medina Cook's Hadisaro, that documentary on northern New Mexico, and the entrance of the Comanche enslaved peoples, the story of the Pueblo enslaved peoples. That story wouldn't be there had it not been for film, had it not been for a Genízaro who was telling his story and the story of hundreds of others in northern New Mexico. Forgive my voice. It's still really scratchy from intubation. So it's
Oh gosh, you sound great on this end, Sheila.
oh,
Seriously.
thank you. I'm
So,
wishing it
so
here.
I now I'm starting to get a picture of you were your proclivity was to go into theater to understand that it sounds like you already got it that we are all one before, in your mind, you saw the separations and this boxing in of, okay, this is who I am, and I'm a girl, and we're in a binary patriarchy, and this is what I'm supposed to do when I grow up, and this is who I'm supposed to be, and I'm supposed to have kids, and I'm supposed to find all that stuff. But you went, oh, you did some of that because you're a mother and now a grandmother and a wife and all that beautiful stuff. But aside from that role that is expected, and you got into the performing arts and got to work with some of these amazing healers, including we've got James Woodenlegs with us this evening. Hi, James. Thank you
Wonderful.
for
Hello,
being with us
James.
this evening. And some of these amazing spiritual leaders, like James Woodenlegs from Northern Cheyenne, you got that experience. So you got all of that inside of your heart, inside of your body, and inside of your to pack into your memory. Like, this is a really sacred thing that's just like a memory I got. And some of them may no longer be here now. So then you find yourself in education. And then you find yourself in your education of choice, which is, I believe, you found yourself in indigenous communities and reservations and all that kind of stuff. So then now you're sharing this stuff that's been passed to you by these spiritual leaders and healers, and you're putting it into a context of developing a curriculum. And then you're developing a curriculum that maybe you're looking at some of the traditional, and then maybe like the traditional Western way of writing a script. And okay, here's a name, colon, here's the line, and coming in from the left side of the stage, all that kind of stuff. And, the script and the repetition. And then all of a sudden, you're the chair at the Institute of American Arts, the first founding chair of the first ever BFA program in the country. And now you got all these students, and I'm thinking about myself back in the day when I went into theater, and Juanita Berry was one of my instructors, and I did a monologue with 9 characters as a cat.
I remember you
And
telling me that.
I remember doing that, but I remember how I felt inside being 19 years old, coming from the Navajo reservation and going, I'm in this theater and I'm doing this. But when I got on stage, when I cried, I really cried. When I was a cat, I was really a cat. When I was a Rubik's Cube, I was really a Rubik's Cube. And when I got to just be whatever the heck I created, I got to be that on that stage. So that was the first time I really felt like pop, like I just something popped out in me. But how do you pull that out of students that have those same dreams and ambitions that are just so they're so shy? I mean, how do you go, come on, let's see that line? Those words, that's linear language. Become it, breathe it, put it on the stage. How do you do that? Tell us some of your techniques now that you're on the other side, because now you're the person that's pulling this, believing in the students until they can believe in themselves. How do you do that?
First of all, the students who want to do it are going to do it. It's already there in them.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many levels to this. Students, people, when they come into this whole thing of wanting to tell their story or tell a story, you don't really have to pull at them much. If they can't be pulled, then they realize that's not what they want to do in life, and they become a visual artist or a writer, and that's fine. And we've had students that do that. But here's the thing is that I think first and foremost, when you believe in the group of people that you're with, and you simply sit and you talk, you begin to realize that each one of us carry medicine. We are medicine.
Yes.
There are the holy people, there are the sacred ones, there are the ones who communicate, the interpreters, but each of us carry medicine. Women carry medicine, and we don't even realize it. Some of us don't, but we know it's there. So what you do is you impart the confidence of the medicine within them. And one of the ways that I found the best way to do this is that you break away from the Western construct. If you're afraid of doing a speech class, then don't do the damn speech class because it's imposing upon you in a bad way. But if I invite you to build a 21-foot puppet, which represents the creation of the universe, and you crawl under that puppet, and you carry the midsection or the head of the puppet, or the arms of the great mother, the spider woman, then all of a sudden, you don't have to worry about Western constructs of theater and the way that they torment you or challenge
Okay.
you or frighten you. Puppetry. And we're the only one of the few schools in the nation that even teach large-scale puppetry, and the only TCU probably that will ever teach it. But we recreate our stories because remember the old ceremonies, the ones that aren't here anymore as well, where everybody came together to what? To reenact the creation of the earth, right? Their creation.
Whoa, you're
And the
absolutely
only,
right.
yes, and the singways, the nightways. For the Cheyenne, it was the Masom. And these were all to maintain balance of the earth. And the predictions, the prophecy said, when we stop these ways, then we will no longer exist as a people. So we can use this concept or this notion of performance or theater, puppetry, whatever you want to call it. It's still storying, and to begin to recreate the stories of creation. And when we do that, what I'm finding, and the students are like, oh, and the faculty are like, oh, it's true. The medicine is within it. So we were asked to do a puppet show for the new Mayak exhibit that's there now, here now and always.
Mm-hmm.
And what we did is we reenacted with the help of an elder from the Manza Apache, way down south along the border. He came and he told us some of the stories of the old Avanyu serpent, water serpent, and forgive me if I mispronounced it, Pueblo people, and
Mm.
how it came up through the earth and it brought the water and the people came behind it. And then somebody said, yeah, and then when you're looking for water, you follow the hummingbird. Okay, and we brought that in. We created all of those puppets, and it was during the fire up in the Santa Fe Mountains. And we went up there to try to rehearse, and the dust storms were so fierce we couldn't even see 30 feet in front of us. And we went ahead and built the puppets. We took them up there. We prayed over them. We offered them tobacco for those who use tobacco. We offered them cornmeal for those who use cornmeal or corn pollen. And we were ready for the show. We did what you would call the dress rehearsal. And all of a sudden we noticed it was starting to look kind of cloudy. And we said, okay, that's all right. Next day we came with the puppets. Everything was ready to go. And the heavens opened up and the rain came and the rains came and the rains came and they put out the fires and they watered the earth and the flowers bloomed and it hasn't stopped since then. And the snows have been coming. And we went out and we gave thanks because we do believe, and I believe from the bottom of my heart, it was the performance of the ceremony that thanked the earth, that told the story of
Yes.
balance, and Hojo
Yes.
returned to the Santa Fe Mountains. And that is how I think that if we truly want to proceed forward in performance, that we need to be inclusive of the significance of ceremony and how we carry that medicine within us. But we have to ask for it in the good way, in the right way, according to our tribes or the tribes with those that we are working with. And when we do that, I see it over and over again, girl.
I think you hit on it. And I think for a lot of people that want to reenact, recreate, walk in the steps of our ancestors, there's so many of us out there that are just feeling lost, feeling confused, everything that's going on, getting lost in this real time of war and this real time of famine and injustice and climate change and all this kind of stuff. And just, all I can tell people is we're not alone. Our ancestors are with us. We're walking in their DNA, man. We're walking on Mother Earth, an embodiment of who we are. Just do the next best thing. That's all. That's it. And I think we can do that. That's what keeps me going, because believe me, I watch and I listen because I want to be informed. But sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it hurts to be in real time that this is allowing us to be in, which wasn't allowable in 1920, 1930, 1940,
Oh,
1950. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on, but none of us knew except where we're at. And if we're so lucky to have a TV with 3 stations, or mom and pop got the newspaper once a day, Gallup Independent, Navajo Times, and could read English, we might hear it over the dinner table. But I mean, a lot of us didn't know what's going on. So whether we read or not, we see pictures. So just next best thing. That can be the ceremony.
Oh, yes.
What do you say?
And if we don't restore the earth and what it's given to us, and if we don't wopila and give back that reciprocity that's necessary, things will continue to dissolve. So for these ceremonies that we've lost, if you go back to Leslie Marmon Silko's ceremony, and what was it, Betoni, that says we have to create new ceremonies now.
That's it.
Because the monsters are new. There are different kinds of monsters now.
Yes.
Be prepared for them. And so we have to create, not to undermine or change the old ceremonies. No, that's not for us to do. They are still relevant and they're powerful and they will go on. But there are other things that we're going to have to do for these new monsters that are coming in from all around us, and be prepared for that. And do not be beguiled by what they offer us. But to
Thank you. That's great. Sheila, thank you for believing in us. Thank you for being a part of our world family, Indigenous Ways. Thank you for being you, for the students at the Institute of American Indian Arts and everybody in Omaha, your family. Thank you most of all for joining our circle tonight for this sacred hour with Sheila, you. And the last thing that I want to say is our theme is ancestrality. They whisper me through, not through me, but it says the wording. See that English wording, ancestrality. They whisper me through. And that is created by our board member, Nicole Oxendine, who's with us tonight. She's from the Lumbee Nation. Hi, Nicole, we love you. So can you talk to us about what that means for you, just right off the cuff? Boom, they whisper me through.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, what is that?
Oh, okay.
To
I
you?
didn't know if you were talking to me or Nicole. They whisper me through. They're
Yeah.
inside us. We are not just one being. And oftentimes, sometimes people think, well, I'm two-spirited. No, this is different. There's more than one being that's within us. And sometimes it changes and it moves in and out, depending upon which ancestor needs to inhabit our souls, the living soul. And those living souls guide us. Without them, because when we find our darkest moments and we feel like I can't go on, I just want to be done here. And all of a sudden it's like somebody comes and puts their arms around you, or your stomach churns, something happens in your heart and it moves up into your brain. And all of a sudden it's like there's a consolation there. It's like, where did that come from? Maybe it was your great, great, great grandmother or your great, great, great grandfather. And they somehow maneuver you through it so that you survive, because we must survive. And I have to say one other thing. Because you inhabit your ancestor spirits, Elena inhabits her ancestor spirits. The spirits that are within you have impacted me and the things that I do. And
Oh,
it started when we first met. Number one, your music and your
Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
lesson.
Was it the Chippewa Nation?
Yes, it was. It was Chippewa Nation. And then it also returned here in Omaha, which allowed me to begin to rethink other things. Integration of the original music, the music that you and Elena were producing. So you impacted me with your ancestors, as I hope that I'm sharing mine with everybody. So it's not just
Yes.
one individual, it's all of us together. When we come and talk about these things, it is a unified whole.
We want to thank you, Ahehe, and so glad you're going to be our MC for our very first Indigenous Ways Festival in May. Thank you for being our MC. Also, everything you do, we can't wait to see you back here in Santa Fe. We're having you over for dinner. Love you.
All right. Thank you
Elena.
so much, Dr. Sheila Rocha, and blessing us with that amazing wisdom. We've got a lot to share with you. There's a lot of stuff going on in the chat box of people who have been truly moved by your incredible wisdom, including both Tash and myself when we first met you, 2007, Mount Pleasant in Michigan, at that Native American Writers Symposium, as Tash and I were students then at the Institute of American Indian Arts, IAIA, and then the many things that you shared and all of our ancestors that move through us. So thank you so much. I'm going to quickly do this because a lot of people want to come on and ask questions and have incredible comments for you. So if you're new and you're watching this live, thank you so much for blessing us in the circle. We're going to go a little bit backwards this time. And what's happened is Tash and I, as she was saying, had just come off a 7-week cultural exchange with Samoa, Australia, and New Zealand, all the homes that I am from, enjoying the summer, 114 degrees to the lowest of 86, wonderful high humidity. You know, what would we know that we're in snow at the moment if we're in the northern hemisphere? However, we're very blessed to touch many ancestral lands, be with the First Nations people, a lot of connections that Tasha mentioned. So I just wanted to give a shout out with that. One of our clips isn't happening, so I just wanted to share. Next month, please put on your calendars, which is February the 21st. Same time, same channel. It is Black History Month. We have got this gorgeous presenter who will be here, Rashan Ahmad, who is a father, a musician, poet, community worker, and also DJ. He has released 6 acclaimed albums that have taken him over 35 countries. He is now living in Santa Fe, doing many, many things as his ancestors breathe through us in arts and culture, and what he's doing here. So please join us next month. We'd love to see you there. If you want to find out more, just go to our IndigenousWays.org website, and all the presenters will be there. Not only that, you will also, if you want to catch something that the beautiful Sheila spoke about now, you can do that because she'll be archived in all of the Indigenous Ways virtual events. We have over 200 presenters. And if Sheila looks really familiar, it's because we've been very blessed. She has been MC on our Indigenous Ways Festival. We've got 3 of those happening this year, May 3rd, June the 8th, which is a Saturday, and also going into Indian Market, which is Friday, August the 16th. We will be doing those, so we're very excited. We'll be telling you more throughout this series. We also want to thank the National Endowments of the Arts, the City of Santa Fe Arts and Culture Department, and also the Santa Fe Community Foundation, which is the Native American Advice Fund, for supporting the Indigenous Ways Wisdom Circle, also to all our individual donors, of course, our amazing board members. We've got Homer, Judy Shapiro, and also Nicole Shapiro that is in this evening. Thank you for all your ongoing support. Also to our interpreters, we've got who's here, Tristan, who is here, and also Mariah, making access available for all. And also, if you want to contribute, you can either go to our website, or you can go to our PayPal, Venmo, or snail mail, which is there. So this is that time. We've got a few minutes left. If you want to come in, please turn on your videos. Please note too, this is also being live streamed out to all our social media. I think there's 9 sites out there where this is going live. So while people are trying to sort out where their videos are, this is what I do want to say, some comments that have come in on Andrea Otero, who is also faculty at IAIA, says, Dr. Sheila, you are so amazing and accomplished, and I am so appreciate you sharing your path and experience. Such an honor to work with you. We've also got Laura Cook, who's on, who said, thank you for sharing, Dr. Rocha. Our beautiful board member, Nicole, thank you for such beautiful sharing, Sheila. Carla M says, great to be here with you. Wendy says, thank you. Homer says, yaha. And we've got Kavan, who's also here, saying, and Nejoni. And with that, Tash, I'll let you take over.
Okay. Yeah, and then we've got thank you for joining this evening from Mariah, Laura Cook, our beautiful sister. She's one of our filmmakers for our Indigenous Ways Festival documentaries. Laura Cook, thank you for being with us. And sign Laura, thank you. And Mariah and Tristan for interpreting. And thank you, Mariah. Great to see you from our beautiful professor of mathematics at the Institute of American Arts. Andrea, we love you. You're great. We need you. Please stay at IA forever. We love you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and open up now. Lisa Tiger, Muskogee, what's up?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
You
Sound
can hear
good.
me?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, Sheila.
Hi,
I miss
Lisa.
you.
Good to see you.
So good to see you. I miss you. You were so helpful to Cricket, and she actually got that part on that echo. I think in part for you, Lindiness, the studios out there at your
Oh,
I that's where she auditioned for that part and as an ancestor in Echo. It's a Marvel series that's on
oh,
Hulu right
wow.
now and Disney Plus. And so I credit you for helping her to get that part.
Wow.
And
Wow.
then, yeah.
The Cricket, she stands alone. Boy, that girl's powerful.
Oh, thank you.
Magnificent, just like her mother.
Yep. Yep. All right. Thank you, Lisa. Let's go to James Woodenlegs. What's up, James Woodenlegs? Good to see you, brother.
Hello. Hello. Great stories, Sheila. And I really enjoyed how you pulled us into this audience. I was involved in a film. It was the Kachina family with 3 children that were from Florida. And they came over and we filmed their story. And it was a movie, sort of. We filmed it. And they were all deaf. They were deaf actors and performers. So we went through that whole process of all the kids mingling and socializing. And they would ask me my advice as a spiritual leader. And so we talked about the Kachina family and the dolls, and I would go through the storytelling of that family, and they were introduced to the new performances and the storytelling. And there was one film festival as well that eventually took over. But again, we didn't have sound or audio once they remade the film. And like you were talking with, there was some echo in that sound and audio in that film. And it was tough because it was hard to match the voices and the audio from everything with some of the echoing that was happening. And again, with the deaf characters that were involved, it was a challenge working with the deaf characters and the sound and the audio. But I do appreciate you and making access for all deaf people and equivalency.
James, I'd really love to see that film
And
sometime.
thank you for your story again. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, James. I'd like to see that film sometime if it's possible.
Yeah, it was like 20 years ago. I'd have to look for it, see if I find it. If I do, I'll lend it to you.
Look for it.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And I'd like to thank Laura Cook. Would you like to say some words to Sheila? Laura, nice to see you.
Hi there. It's nice to see you all. It's just such a powerful message that we shared tonight. I'm very touched and really truly appreciative. And I'm just so lucky to have you share your experiences with us and your stories and your wisdom. So just thank you, and I appreciate you.
Thank you for your presence, Laura. You can feel all of those things. Even though we're working with machines, there is still an element of that power that comes through and it impacts us. So we get that energy and we're able to give that energy back. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. And just to shout out everybody, Laura is one of our team of filmmakers that's doing a documentary for Indigenous Ways festivals. So thank you, Laura, for working with the team for the festivals that we're putting together. So Deaf Access, ASL Access. Now we are going to be getting a ramp put onto our stage. So that's exciting news. I'll talk to you about that later. But last but not least, let's go ahead and go to Wendy and then we'll close it down. Wendy, would you like to say some words before we close? I think we're on mute.
Or just put your volume up. Or just try your volume.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
It won't work. I'm sorry. Okay.
all right. You can type it in the chat. But thank you for that, Wendy. And listen, I just want to take this time to thank everyone, as Tash was saying, for your time. So great to see everyone. Thank you for your blessing, each and every one of us, whether you are here live or watching the recording, wherever you may be. And also all those watching Zoom, social media, also our interpreters, Mariah, Tristan, making access available for all. We're going to look forward to seeing each and every one of you. So put into your diaries, February 21, same time, same channel. We've got the beautiful Rashan Ahmad. You can go to our website, IndigenousWays.org, with all the amazing things going on. But, you know, it's been so powerful. But, oh, and Wendy says, thank you. She's got, and she's got little sound issues, but she said she is so grateful. And Wendy, so are we. So are we for everyone coming in, and that is the essence of presence, the essence of all our spirits, our ancestors that we bring in together. Have a huge party. But with that, let's please give it up for the one and only Patty O'Donnell. It's good seeing you. But let's give it up for the one and only Sheila Rocha.
And good to see you, Christine and Donna. Love you all. Great night. We'll see you soon. Much love. And good to see you, Christine and Donna. Love you all. Much love. Thank you. And good to see you, Christine and Donna. Much love. And good to see you, Christine and Donna. Much love. And good to see you, Christine and Donna. Much love. And good to see you, Christine and Donna.